What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast, a proud partner of the Euroset Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. I am your host, Numac, coming to you healthy after missing a pod last week and with the flu. So this is your PSA to go get your flu shot because I got mine, and I don't think if I would have survived had I not had it because the flu sucks this year. So there's your upfront PSA. But joining me to talk about the ugly, ugly Packers loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is my lovely, not solo anymore co-host Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well, doing decent. Let's change it to that.
Just decent.
Decent, decent, decent.
Jordan unfortunately couldn't bring his notorious Bucs luck to Lambeau Field today.
First loss in person I've ever seen.
That there comes a time for them all, right?
Yeah, exactly. Baker Mayfield shredded that one up too.
Baker Mayfield, the first quarterback in NFL history to have a perfect passer rating game at Lambeau Field.
Oh boy, did it feel like it?
Yeah. Buccaneers beat the Packers 34-20 in a game that wasn't really close in the second half.
No.
The Packers had fought in the first half to keep it close. I think the half ended 13-10. The Packers down getting the ball to start the second half. But then the wheels kind of just fell off there, and the title card says it for those of you on YouTube, but for those of you who clicked on the episode as well, the defense was just disastrous today. Like, I tweeted it after the game, but Joe Barry has lost all of his goodwill that he built up from that 4-game winning streak. And who he was beating, not who he was, but the types of teams the Packers are beating in part because of their outstanding defense. All that has gone away now with back-to-back losses to the Giants and the Buccaneers, two teams the Packers should have no problem beating, but simply couldn't because the defense couldn't get off the field.
Yes, 27% chance of the Packers to make the playoffs according to ESPN Analytics. Um yeah, it was a game that it just felt I'm tripping over my words already. Um it felt like anytime the offense got a break, and again, there was problems with some of the offensive uh there were some mistakes or whatever you want to call it. The offense was the high point of today by far. Like it was not even close. And it just felt like anything they even were doing really well, it did not matter because of just how much they were getting gassed on the other side of it. Like it was a shootout type game. Didn't really expect that considering the conditions going into the game, which I was there for. I felt like this was going to be a grimy affair, and both teams are slaying it well. I mean, Baker Mayfield outperformed what he did in one game versus the two earlier games he's played at Lambeau by far. And it was just the way that they were in control of it was the everything that we have come to expect from a Joe Barry defense, and we've seen this for nearly 3 years, 3 full years. And it's like all these things that they have loaded up on, like, we want to prevent the big play. We want to play people in front of them. Like they desperately do not want to give those big plays up. And in the process, even when they're getting after Baker Mayfield for like 5 sacks, like I was kind of surprised seeing the box score after the fact, even though in the moment you're seeing them get to them.
Yeah,
And even those plays, like Lucas Van Ness, I forget what quarter it was.
I think it
I
was
think
the
maybe right
third.
before halftime.
Yeah, it was either right before halftime or beginning of the third.
He takes Baker Mayfield down. They get pinned back with a holding penalty right after that. It's like second and 29. Buccaneers immediately the next play,
Yeah,
getting that all back, getting in field goal position to make it 13-10. Like
it was the
the
drive,
final,
the final drive before halftime.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it was stuff like that, like just again, all the worst elements of what we have seen from this defense under Joe Barry was all to display. the one thing that was not there was the run defense. But even then, like Tampa Bay, like 3.7 yards per game or yards per rush, I should say. It didn't really do it justice when like Rashad White was still getting largely what he was doing. Like it, I don't know. Like
Yeah,
it was
that
so bad.
3.72 is heavily brought down by negative 1.0 yards
Yep.
for Devin Tompkins and Baker Mayfield. If you take out those two, they average 4.25 a carry
Yep.
between Rashad White and Chase Edmonds. Rashad White, 21 carries, 89 yards on the ground, but out of the backfield, 2 catches for 50 yards. One of them was a touchdown. Um, just Yeah, the defense was atrocious. You said it perfectly right. That the bend and don't break defense that they've had all year, and that they don't want to allow big plays, didn't happen. They allowed a lot of big plays today. For Rashad White, he had his longest rush was 22 yards. Like these are only the top 6 long plays because Chris Godwin had a bunch, and I don't have every big play that they had in this game. But
Well, I
Rashad,
have some numbers. I have some numbers for you.
go for it.
7.5 yards per play by Buccaneers. 12.6 yards per passing attempt.
That's crazy.
16 yards per completion.
That's crazy.
And you mentioned it, or here's the doozy. Um, Baker Mayfield completed 20 of 24 passes against zone coverage for 361 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in today's victory over the Packers. Mayfield threw a touchdown pass to all 4 levels of the field for the third time in his career, the most by any quarterback since 2016. That is according to NFL Next Gen stats.
Yeah, we'll get into the zone stuff in a minute, but you look at the big plays like going off those numbers. Chris Godwin's long was 25. David Moore had a 52-yard touchdown at the end of the game, which was a crazy no one tackling touchdown. Mike Evans' long was 19 yards, 26 from Rashad White on the touchdown, and then Kate Otten for 22. Like that's just 6 big plays that they don't want to give up, that they give up all night long or all
Yep.
afternoon long. It was just embarrassing, honestly. And to get into the zone coverage thing you talked about, I I've been screaming it on this pod, Jordan, for I don't know how long. But it seems that everybody in the Discord, not spoiler, but brief interruption, join the Discord, GSP and that info. Everybody in the Discord and people on Twitter are finally realizing that it's just like, why are they playing such soft coverage? It was third and I think 4 early on in the game, and Chris Godwin ran a curl or a dig route for like 5 yards, and it's just like, what are you doing? It's just mind blowing, Jordan. And then the fact that I saw some Aaron Nagler, so I guess we'll get into it right away. And like this is what I had in my notes. It's just that he kind of put it into a more succinct way. What's so depressing, this is from Aaron Nagler. What's so depressing is watching Carrington Valentine doing a good job blanking a receiver one of the few times he was asked to get aggressive using good technique with his offhand. So it's not to turn the receiver, get the pass breakup, and then sent back to playing milquetoast zone. It's like, yeah,
He
we've
did that on
seen.
Mike Evans too.
I know. I watched the play, and then I then right back to just super soft coverage in zone, and these are the kind of things that just annoy me to no end when it comes to how you're scheming a defense, right? I've talked about it all year long, but they give guys such big cushions to get out of their breaks. You can't give talented receivers like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin room to get out of their breaks. Chris Godwin had an amazing day, 10 catches, 155 yards. Like,
Ridiculous.
ridiculous.
I had a feeling that a Buccaneers wide receiver is going to go for 150 yards. I did not think it was Chris Godwin.
Right. But you think it'd be Mike Evans, who also had a decent day, 4 catches, 57 yards. But
Touchdown.
and a touchdown. But you just can't. You can't give talented receivers that sort of room to work. It's a death sentence, because if you don't get them out of the rhythm at their break, they can just do what they want and run the route they want, because they're the top level professionals at their position. They know how to either, one, draw a penalty, or two, have an option route of where they can go based on where the defender's playing zone. And Keyshawn Nixon said it post game. He's like, they just had the perfect call for every zone. Like they kept finding the soft spot in the zone every single play. Then Joe Barry, stop playing zone. I almost swore. But just stop playing zone. Like you can play zone sometimes, but they're exclusively playing zone, exclusively giving guys 5, 6, 10 yards of cushion off the line of scrimmage. And it's allowing quarterbacks like Tommy DeVito, quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield, quarterbacks like Kenny Pickett to pick them apart. And like I think that's just the biggest thing is that I saw post game that Matt LaFleur was honestly sick of the defense and like just head up to here with how they're playing. And I don't blame him. Like I would be very very shocked if Joe Barry survived the season. I'd be less shocked if he was fired tomorrow. And the Packers are not
Oh,
the
no.
team.
Yeah.
The Packers are not the team for in-season changes. Is why I say that.
Yeah, there's multiple ways to go from there, but like for me, I would say I've read a lot of the player reactions. I've read a lot of what LaFleur said after the fact. I did not watch these things. It's a very different experience watching these clips versus reading them. So take that for what it's worth. But being at the game and reading, seeing these things unfold live, and there was just a lot of like three-play. Rudy Ford before that big David Moore touchdown is like trying to get guys in the right position right before the ball is snapped. He's like waving his hand, being like, "Put go over there, do." Like it was a lot of that of just kind of one player either confused or kind of understanding where he thinks that the play is going to happen. The play happens and it does not matter because it's, you know what I mean? And that was a lot of today of like, we saw a lot of these plays built to break their zone busting plays. They found like, it would just pop the balloon of this soft coverage of like, boom, there you go, boom, boom. We saw so many times where Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell both had really just nightmarish games today, in my opinion. They were either shaded one way too much or like a second late in anticipating where the throw would be. And it was just classic like manipulation of this zone, but even on a grander scale of like the numbers I mentioned of the NFL Next Gen stats, like that is crazy. It's crazy to have that
It's
level of
insane.
success,
Like it's crazy.
but it's not from what we have seen. Again, we're not talking about Baker Mayfield is a better quarterback, more talented quarterback than Tommy DeVito, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ritter. I don't have to reiterate these things, but we all know that. The thing to me that is, I get would say, is the most frustrating thing about this is that we have seen this defense work in other ways. And yes, it's not their base defense. It's not the base strategy that Joe Barry clearly wants to call a game at this point because we have 3 years worth of evidence that this is how he naturally sets up the order. It's frustrating to not kind of recognize, oh, you're getting gashed in the middle of the field. These guys are getting in, even if it's low yardage spots, they're getting everything that they want based on how they're set up, wide receiver screens. There were things that like I think I can't remember who it said, Carrington Valentine or it was some defensive back saying that there are things that the Buccaneers did today that was not on tape. It doesn't matter. It really does not matter for that to be on tape to be like, okay, we have to watch over this thing because you have to be able to adjust. It's always about adjusting your coverages. I feel like that is a lot more doable than with defense than there is offense because I don't know. This is just a half big point that I have, but with today where it's like you're just seeing the same thing over and over and over again. That's where it's like I can't possibly fathom doing this over and over again of just like expecting something different when you're just going back to the well so many times, and that well is well past the point of being poisoned at this point.
No, absolutely. Like it's definitely poisoned because it doesn't work. It hasn't worked, and I don't know. It's hard to just blame it on Joe Barry too, because like at some point you just gotta have guys make plays in the secondary, and have guys make plays at the linebacking or linebacker position. Like Devondre Campbell, I think just is too slow after his injuries. Unfortunately, like him and Quay Walker both looked bad today. Um,
Yeah.
I I don't wish to keep seeing Devondre Campbell in coverage. He just I don't like seeing the linebackers in deep coverage in the first place. I understand that that's a scheme thing between who is covering running backs out of the backfield and things like that, but it just wish that there was a different way to cover that as a defense than how the Packers currently do it. Because between Preston Smith, Quay Walker, and Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker is like barely the most capable one of covering anybody downfield. And like it's just hard to do for a linebacker whose job it shouldn't be to do that. And maybe I don't watch enough football to say that I don't see other teams' linebackers doing that, but I just don't. I feel like it gets how do I say this, exaggerated a lot more when it comes to teams playing the Packers. They're always looking to get guys against the linebackers and put that sort of scheme up for the Packers to defend against because it works. And
Yeah.
any team with a receiving back kind of just goes into that look almost every game at some point because they know they can get good money out of it. So, yeah, the secondary today was disappointing. I don't think Eric Stokes had much of a role. I saw him on the field a lot, but first game back, you kind of take what you can take with him. Like, at least he stayed healthy.
But even then, like I think, not to kind of cross your point, like I was really excited to see him. I was shocked and surprised to see him lined up first defensive snaps. He's going against Mike Evans. He was
Yeah,
not exclusively against Mike Evans, but on the outside, if he was over there, that's Eric Stokes' territory. And I could not even really like judge how he looked based on how they were playing. They're not playing in ways that they have pressing cornerbacks between him and Carrington Valentine, and they're not doing those things to utilize those skills.
right.
And granted, like Stokes is a very different case because he's been through literally hell and back and all that stuff with health wise and just getting back on the field in the first place is tremendous for sure after the many setbacks he's had just this season.
Hmm.
But yeah, like that's where like the touchdown that he, if you want to call it on him, gave up. It was clear like even that point it's like it's a short yardage field. I think it was in the red zone. He has Evans. He lets go of his assignment, thinking that someone was going to be behind him. No one was, and there you go. And it's like, again, it's just the way that they utilize the skills and talents of the players that they have available to them. And granted, who's been available to them every game has been a revolving door,
Yeah,
but it was just the overall just not being able to find, not even just like wanting to throw a curveball was just maddening just to see this team just run loose on Green Bay.
oh, absolutely. Like I think the biggest thing is just let the guys play football. They all they were set to do is just cover an area of field, which I understand is a pretty basic explanation of what zone is. But this team, like these cornerbacks, are good in man. I feel between Jair and Carrington Valentine, like Corey Valentine had a tough DPI today, but I feel like I didn't even see him in coverage at all um, when it came to just covering guys. Because again, they played 4 snaps of man, which is I guess in passing situations, but it's just crazy that you draft these guys and that you really don't allow them to play to their strengths. Carrington Valentine, I think, is going to be a decent corner, with opportunity to be good, to be great if he so chooses, and if he can up his skills that way. But you can't just trot him out in zone every time. Like it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like this is what happened with Jair and Justin Jefferson week 1 last year. Like you can't just shy away from your best players making great plays because you're afraid of a guy beating you. And I understand that you don't want a single guy to beat you that you didn't plan for him, but you have to at least try to stop him. And the soft cushions and the soft zone where they can just find the hole and pick it apart. The top receivers in the NFL can do that in their sleep. And
Yeah.
so when you're allowing them just to get it off with no pressure at the line of scrimmage, it's easy as can be.
So easy. Ugh.
Uh
Ugh.
for what it's worth, I thought the D line had a good day. They were getting
Yeah.
pressure often. Like they had a couple of big runs that they let up, like the 22-yard one from Rashad White, but other than that, like 20 carries, 80 yards isn't a bad day for the D line. TJ Slayton had a good day. He's getting really good at timing snaps. Really good at timing snaps. So, I don't know. It's like what Lucas Van Ness had a sack.
Yeah.
Kenny Clark, I think, got the credit for one, but Rashawn Gary was there first. I'm just a fan of how they played today, frankly.
Yeah, I'm looking at Kenny Clark was credited with 2, Lucas Van Ness with 1, Devontae Wyatt with 1, JJ Anibari with 1.
With the strip
Yeah, like
sack, that was the strip sack one.
And that is another thing that was frustrating, both defensively and even offensively. Like the one thing that was like this game. Okay, let's go back to what I was trying to say. Um, this game could have been a lot more lopsided, and the Packers' offense played really well. I thought we'll get more into the offense as we segue from the defense. But I will say it is like that gift of that strip sack being on the 5, like that was, I mean, you can't ask for a better field position in that situation.
Nope.
And on a day like that today, where you're saying all these things, where that's a game changing play, the defensive line gets it after the Buccaneers offensive line, who had been relatively good all season long. Like that was an outlier performance for them. You can't be mad about what they were giving you when Baker Mayfield is like, even the throws that he was successful on, he's getting out of the pocket, he's getting the ball out quick enough that he's not going to be taken down on the ground or disrupted by his plays. It's just like and the frustrating thing about that is like that didn't matter. Like this is such a successful day pass rushing wise, and it's the kind of things that like when the Packers get 5 or more sacks in the game, you're probably thinking, oh, that's a win.
Absolutely. Every time.
And it wasn't. Like, I don't know. Again, this game could have been way worse than the final score could have been. I mean, Buccaneers could have easily scored a game or a touchdown in the final 2 minutes, or final whatever 3 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
And whoever
Rashad White was gone.
Yes.
He went down by himself, but he was gone. It could have been 41-20 easily.
Yeah, and like again, you get that gift of the strip sack to score, take the lead, and Tampa Bay just continues marching. It was a blip on their whole
Yeah.
performance.
It didn't affect Baker Mayfield whatsoever.
No, and that to me was the most shocking thing of it all. Like
He's gotten better.
He's gotten better, and credits. It's like I was very surprised coming into this game how well he has played, because you just kind of look at the record, you look at quality of opponents that they played, and it's like it just felt like a transition year, and perhaps that between what he's working with and the offense coordinator and all that stuff, like he just found the right situation for him after really bouncing around over the last year and a half specifically.
2 years, yeah.
But yeah, that guy just he shredded them so easily.
Yeah. And if you look at like the games that they've lost, they've been close. Like they lost their biggest losses to the Eagles, where they lost by 14, and to the Lions by 14. So that was week 3 and 5. They stood at 3 and 2, and then they go on a losing streak when they lost to the Lions. Lost by 3 to the Falcons, 6 to the Bills, and 2 to the Texans. 13 to the Niners and then 7 to the Colts. Like, and another on a 3-game winning streak. Um, yeah, they just kind of have found their groove, and they've got a good defense. They've always had in these last five
They got
six years.
playmakers.
Playmakers. KJ Britt for them was really good today. He was replacing a coach's decision to not play Devin White, who
Oh wow.
yeah, he was active all week in practice, and he was good to go for today apparently, but they didn't activate him because they liked what KJ Britt was bringing in. He had 6 tackles and a tackle for a loss, but he was in on a lot more plays than it seemed like for those stats. So, yeah, I think you're right that this game could have been a lot uglier than it was, and yeah, like it makes me sad that the defensive line played so well, and they played like to the quality. They played as well as we wanted them to play all year, but then the secondary just wasn't there today, and the scheme just wasn't there today from Joe Barry, and it really let down what was an awesome performance by the front four and the edge rushers and Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary and JJ Nabari.
Yeah. It, yeah. Just rough.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. I'm ready for Joe Barry to be done. Like, goodbye, good riddance. If you're here for three,
I mean, we talked about it last week. I like it. What I think also is 2 weeks ago we are riding high. The Packers beat the Chiefs.
yeah,
That is still a monumentous accomplishment given how this season was going. We've seen them play against, better teams in the NFL, like the Chiefs, and conquer them. And not even two, barely 2 weeks later, they're so out of the playoff picture that a lot of help is needed to get them back in it. And then we're talking about the same things. And like, this is what happened. This is the lot in life that the Packers have set them outside for. Like, we have known there's problems with how Joe Barry calls a game, how he sees things, schemes things, very vanilla, very just kind of predictable at this point. We've seen this movie before. But instead, I think how we thought of last season's late season surge, and where the defense really made plays. Yes, they weren't perfect, but it was still like stuff that we had wanted to see all season long and happened in a 4-game stretch. This year just kind of feels like it was this 3-game winning streak or whatever it was, middle of the season, where they kind of start figuring things out. Jordan Love looks like a really good starting quarterback. And now all the things that we feared going into the year of like, will Jordan Love be successful in spite of what the defense will be like? And it's like, that has all come home to roost. And that is ultimately the biggest problem with any Joe Barry kind of scenario where he, after the season, because to me, like, thinking about him getting moved on during the season, it's just not going to happen. It's not. They won't. They did it with the most successful head coach in franchise history, not named Vince Lombardi, and that was a shocking thing.
and it took a loss to a like 1 in what I think like 11 team at that point, whatever record that
Cardinals team that was like games away from
horribly
getting the first
embarrassing.
pick.
Yeah, horribly embarrassing Cardinals team.
Granted, that scenario is about to happen with the Packers playing the Panthers on Christmas Eve, and
Yep.
yeah,
Sure
but,
is.
yeah.
No, I'm ready for honestly the entire defensive front to go. Like, I don't think there's anybody or the entire defensive side of the ball, like coaching staff, to go. I don't think there's anybody I'm really thinking about keeping because no position on the defense is really good enough to show that they're being coached well enough. Like, I think they have talented players on the defensive line, but they can't stop the run. And Jerry Montgomery hasn't been able to stop the run for God knows how long he's been there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just ready for all of them to go. Maybe keep the one fella from the Cardinals that came over for the D-backs coach. I forget his name. I think it's Jerry Gray, but that's not right.
Greg Williams.
Greg Williams. Jerry Gray left, or am I just pulling a name out of my ass?
He did leave.
Okay.
No, I think what ultimately to me that might be the most. It's like a good thing, but it's also a really bad thing. It's like blessing and curse. Is that we've seen strides from. We talk about Corey Ballantyne, Carrington Valentine, these late, Valentine's a rookie. Valentine was bouncing around before getting in Green Bay, and through injury, he, stepped up and has been, the starting cornerback up until today, for the last couple of weeks. Isaiah McDuffie, late, like these kind of like they're not star level players. They're not the kind of guys that you look at the a scouting report and be like, okay, we have to define our game plan around them and kind of neutralize them as much as possible. Yet, when it comes to these star players or the guys that you expect the most out of, Jair Alexander, I mean, there's other mitigating circumstances going on with that and injury, obviously. But again, not a factor this year.
Even before he was healthy or before he got injured, he wasn't really a factor this year.
Nope. Rashawn Gary is an outlier, but again, it's very feast or famine. Preston Smith, kind of increasingly disappointing season. Like the best players that we think that could really carry this team aren't being elevated by what's being done. And that to me is not, that should be examined more, or whenever they start evaluating the futures of coaches and position coaches and all that stuff, that should be really, really evaluated to kind of like, you have made such an investment on the defensive side of the ball under Brian Gutekunst for many years now, and we're still talking about the defense the same way.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, 100%. Like that should be the biggest question out of the season, is that he's put what the rhyme of Jordan. He's been there for what, 6 years, 7 years. Goody.
6 years, and LaFleur. This
Right.
is the fifth.
Right. So, but to your point, that Goody's been there for 6 years and drafted defense, I believe, every single pick in the first round,
Yep.
or except Jordan Love. I apologize. And it's still just a meddling defense. There's nothing really inspiring about it. There's inspiring players like you're mentioning, but with the amount of investment that they have had and the amount of scouting that they've done, it should just be a top 5 defense perennially, and it's not.
Yeah.
And so, geez Louise, like, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is that, all right, we've invested all this time and effort into these players we drafted in the first round. What do we have to show for it? Who are we looking at? And I think they all should go, frankly. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
Let's talk about the offense.
Yes.
Might as well, huh? I thought the offense was actually kind of good today. I'm not sad with how the offense performed. I think there could have been a lot better choices in how the game was called. I think it's a pretty stark stat that the Packers had like 50-ish yards or something on the first drive rushing, and the rest of the game had like 16 or something, I saw on Twitter. I don't know what happened with the game plan. So much of the Packers offense is predicated from the running game going and getting going. And I understand it's hard that you don't want to rush out Aaron Jones there for 25 carries. He had 13 carries today. A lot of those were on the first drive.
8 to be specific.
8 to be specific. And we heard from Matt LaFleur that he wasn't going to get a full workload. He was going to have like 15, 20 carries, if that. Or no, 15, 20, I think, plays at all, if I remember correctly. Touches might have been the right word. But then you just don't even play Patrick Taylor or Kenyon Drake at all. Patrick Taylor had 1 rush for 6 yards. Kenyon Drake had 1 rush for no yards. Like, what is the point of bringing him up from the practice squad if you're not even going to use him? You know what I mean? Like, just so much of their offense is reliant on play action pass or the threat of the run. Like we've talked about this earlier on in the season, and 17 carries for 60 yards is not a good effort when a lot of that's from Aaron Jones on the first drive. And to go away from running the ball and just to pass, like Jordan Love threw it almost 40 times. That's just not good. It's not a good mix of how you should be
Not
calling
like
your
a
offense.
balance.
No, it's that's an awful balance. And like I'm not saying it needs to be equal every game, but it should be closer than that. They should have success with running the ball before they start passing it that much. And so I think that was the thing that just made me the most angry about today's offensive game. But for what it's worth, like Jordan Love, 29 to 39, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, only took 2 sacks. Um, he had a couple of bad throws that I thought he should have had. The first fourth down on the
First
goal
drive,
line,
yeah.
he missed the touchdown, and then a couple more in that flat. Like it's a lot of it. A lot of it is his footwork. He just isn't setting his feet, and like that was the first one. He was rolling away from his receiver and just let it sail, and that is first year starter quarterback stuff. Like I hope that he ends up like fixing that in the off season and that he actually learns to set his feet or learn to compensate for his body's momentum and get the throw on target. It's a hard throw, don't get me wrong, to make that throw rolling away, but maybe don't roll away and we won't have that problem. But Dontavian Wicks, man, 6 catches, 97 yards. Like he's looking more and more like wide receiver one. And I think it might not even be an argument anymore that he is wide receiver one.
Um, yeah, again, he was really good. He got every 6 catches for 90 something yards, 7 targets. Like he got everything that came, well, obviously, except for one. But anytime they targeted him, anytime it didn't matter what part of the field, what kind of route he was running, he was just stretching the field in a way. And like that, I think to me is like seeing the success that they had with him. There was multiple drives where they called his number. They could rely on him. They were trying to score late two of, down, what would have been 34-20 at that point. They're getting out on the field, and then that drive ended with the strip sack, and that was essentially the game. But it was Dontavian Wicks. I'm always going to keep doing that. Devontae Wicks,
Yeah.
Dontavian Wicks.
Well, it's because they just, again, they're not the
They
same.
they have a similar skill set.
They have a similar skill set, and they look a lot similar when they're coming out of their breaks on receptions.
Yep.
Like, there's just something different between Dontavian Wicks and a player like Romeo Dobbs, who just doesn't run with the same purpose. Like, I think Dontavian Wicks does a lot of good route running to make it seem like he's going to either fly past you or run a certain route, then does the opposite. Like he just runs really good routes, which is Devontae Adams' calling card.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to your opinion because I called Romeo Dobbs' game a no-show today, to which I got a little pushback from our
No.
dearest listeners. He had 3 catches for 30 yards, and
He's not an impactful player.
I don't think from game to game, week to week, I don't think he is.
I think he's a heavily like specialized situation where if it's red zone, well, even then, recently it's not. He hasn't really been a factor in the red zone
Yeah,
because there's better options. Like it's Dontavian Wicks, when he's healthy and not getting hurt mid game, he's becoming a factor in the passing game. Jaden Reed is, you mentioned Wicks being number one. Jaden Reed is just like, that guy is just so electric whenever he touches the ball. Tucker Kraft, I'm going to be a little boastful here. Saw him in motion right before his touchdown. I was like, this is the Tucker Kraft touchdown. Immediately bowls through the guy after setting like this kind of like fake screen.
yeah.
Bowls through, gets a touchdown. I really like Tucker Kraft. I'm all in. I think he's going to be better than Luke Musgrave, but they're both on the same team, so I don't care who's better or who's not. There's just these other options are really just. I think the biggest problem for Romeo Dobbs is that they're getting better by the week.
right, and he's not doing anything to prove himself.
No.
Is like my thing. Like the pushback that Tommy and John
Does
gave
he
me, and
does he do
I want to like they make a good point is that the two receptions because Romanow's got a catch on the first drive for like 7 yards, and
yeah.
that was the last I saw of him like cognizantly the entire game. But he had two other catches that went for first downs that kept drives going, and that's valuable. But for a guy like Romeo Dobbs who has the talent set and like the ball catching ability that he has in certain spots, like you see Romeo Dobbs make amazing catches at the apex of his jump in the end zone, and it's just an amazing catch, right? And it's really really awesome to see. But then you see him double catch balls so often. What was it? Was that last week or 2 weeks ago that he double caught a ball that was a touchdown? I think that was last week, wasn't it? I think it was. Or
Let me look at this game.
whenever it was. He double catches balls often in places where you just need to have solid hands. And he's not a good route runner. Like Paul Brettel has wrote that article way long ago, which seems like forever ago now, back in early season, that Roman Dobbs' season is being inflated by uh, by touchdown numbers. But I just think it's disappointing to see the roller coaster of a season that he can have at some points, even from week to week. Because some weeks he'll have a really good game. Like, what was it, earlier in the season? He had like 97 yards for a game or something, or 80 yards.
Granted, it was the Lions game.
The first one?
Yes.
Right. But still, like, he has the ability, if he's catching balls, to really get yards and get touchdowns. And sometimes it's just I want him to be more incorporated into the offense. But if these other guys are going to pass him by like this, I don't know what his role really is going to be because at this point, if Christian Watson is healthy, it's Watson, Wicks, Reed are my top three for sure.
Yep.
And then
Then you have the two tight ends.
right, and then whoever's coming out of the backfield, and then I mean, it's just disappointing. Is
Like
all I'm gonna say. I
I
wish he
think
would have
for
developed further than what he came from last year, and the development has not been there this year.
I think for me, it's like, what does he do that is so starkly different than the other guys that isn't duplicated?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
He's duplicative. I know I pronounced that word wrong. I apologize. To every other receiver, especially Wicks and Heath. They both do the same sort of thing. And so I don't know. I just wish after the year he had last year before his injury that he would have like continued to develop on that and do better. He just hasn't. Like the route running isn't there. The solid pass catching isn't there. The double catching of balls has been problematic, but it's just it's just disappointing and
52 catches for 84 targets this year.
it's not good. It's not good. Like that's really not good.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's just I want him to be good because I like Romeo Dobbs. I like what he can
But this
bring.
is this
But
is
this is a
I
game where he could have been used.
yes, I think this is also like we're in the ground stage. This is the first full year of a rebuild,
Yeah.
if we're being honest. But the thing that will increasingly come up is that the more that you load in on these draft classes and the more picks that you have, it's not going to be long until we're talking about people that get squeezed out.
Mm-hmm. And it's
There's only 11 players that you can play on the field at a given time.
yeah.
And if people usurp them based on talent, based on being healthy, like I feel like that is the area in which we might be facing with Romeo Dobbs. It's very early. I can understand people pushing back against his opinion, but he just does not change the game in a very real way to me that just feels like everything else is very palpable. It's very palpable when Jaden Reed hits catches catches in someone that has his own problem with catch radius and hands and everything like that. The touchdown they had today was stupendous. It was a great throw. It was made even better by Jaden Reed being able to put 2 feet down and catch a ball within this. He could not be, if he took one little more step, he would be out of bounds.
It was a dart and it was a beautiful catch with an even better, or a beautiful throw with even better catch.
Yes. And you see that. You see Dontavian Wicks, who, again, when healthy, the guy makes plays, and they're really incorporating that into the passing game. Tucker Kraft is emerging as a really good tight end, and Luke Musgrave, is more raw, yeah, in that regard. But we have seen flashes of him being a very useful target in that point. And it's like there's only so much you can get the ball around. You know what I mean? Like that's part of the way where we are going with this kind of squeezing out elements. I will just kind of profit. Not profit as in be rewarded. I'm just saying watch out for the next couple of years of these things.
Profit, Prophet.
Exactly.
From Aaron Nagler, Jaden Reed sits at 54 receptions on the season, which is one away from tying Sterling Sharp's franchise record for most receptions during a rookie season. Which I think Luke Musgrave was on pace to break earlier for yardage from Sterling.
That he lacerated his kidney.
Yeah, that was like, I'm fine, coach, put back in.
Tucker Kraft almost duplicated that same injury.
No, he got hit in the nuts, dude.
He did get hit in the nuts.
He got hit in the nuts.
Ball.
Yeah.
The ball. Oh.
Yeah. It was, just a frustrating. And then again, this is like going against what I had said earlier that I liked the game that the offense played. Like, I think everyone who played well. I just think that there was a lot of stuff to be desired when it came to like how they played, the plays they called, and just there was food left on the table that could have been eaten up for points.
Do you know what the biggest problem that I had today with that?
I'd love to know.
Again, I had the benefit of seeing this game. I'm not going to brag because I saw. I'm not going to swear. Crappy ass. I just swore. Crappy loss. The problem that happened a lot, and I hope someone in the Packers sphere validates my opinion here. There would be big plays, big spots where they have to get a third down and long. They have to get. And guess who's not? Their best players today were not out on the field. Like Dontavian Wicks was out for like multiple plays, and then it's like, oh, we're looking at fourth down on that final drive that like actually mattered for them. Tucker Kraft is out for in part because he got hit in the nuts for a meaningful play. Like it was stuff like that where it's like they draw up these plays, and it's like, who did they think that they were going to throw it to?
Yeah,
because you got Ben Sims going like.
Yep.
He's a football player. He's infinitely more talented than me. But throwing to Ben Sims or throwing to Bo Melton in very crucial spots is like, that is not, no. And yes, you are expected to think that these guys can step up and do their job. But no, these are replacement level players. Like that is ultimately what it is.
Yep.
And throwing those to those guys in those spots was like, I was just like, just going crazy. I'm like, why are we throwing a throw that should be thrown to Tucker Kraft when Tucker Kraft is not on the field? Like, It was just, I don't know.
I think my biggest issue in I guess running trend that the Packers are having a problem doing is that they consistently, in spots where they need to get a first down, keep throwing the ball short of the sticks. Yes. Like Tucker Kraft, I think was early in the first quarter when they needed a third down, caught a ball short of the sticks and got a first down. Like they just need to stop running plays on needed downs short of the sticks, especially in short yard situations. Like 3rd and 4, and you're throwing a pass behind the line of scrimmage. You can't be doing it. You're just not going to be allowed to do it in 9 times out of 10 in the NFL. And so it's just something they need to get away from. Like I understand it works once in a while. Like, I'm not saying you need to throw past the sticks every single time, but in a season where we've seen so many of those plays where you need to have it, and the pass goes behind the line of scrimmage or
Yep.
behind the sticks and it doesn't get there, it's just frustrating to see in week 15 that they're still doing it. Like the 2-point conversion against the Giants last week, a touch pass to Jaden Reed. Like, you should be throwing in the end zone on a 2-point conversion. And when it's third down on your opening drive and you need that third down conversion to keep the drive going, you should be throwing past the sticks so that you have the best chance to get the first down. Even if it's over the middle, like, I don't care who it's to or where it is, so long as that if you give the wide receiver an opportunity to catch the ball with the first down. Like, there's something to be said about that and about as like play calling in general.
Yeah.
I'm not like saying it's desperate, but I feel like some of the play design today from the Buccaneers left a lot to be desired from like the Matt LaFleur play design stuff. Maybe it's because we see it every week and it's not so fresh to us anymore.
What do you mean?
The play where they had Jaden, I shouldn't say Jaden Reed. I thought about it with Jaden Reed and Aaron Jones. They had some receiver in the backfield with Rachaad White, and they were like on both sides of Baker Mayfield. This is the Rachaad White touchdown catch. And the receiver went from left of Baker Mayfield in motion behind Baker Mayfield and swung out like he was going to catch a swing pass in the flat. Rachaad White on snap runs the wheel route up the seam of the middle of the field, catches the touchdown.
Yep.
At whatever. I feel like we have not seen that whatsoever from the Packers, where they would use Jaden Reed like that, where they would have him run something out there, like in the flat, like they're going to swing it to him, and then have AJ Dillon or Aaron Jones up the middle on a wheel route like that. Maybe they have, and it just wasn't open. But that was a great play design. I'm sick of the play that they found money with once, where they fake it to one side and fake it to the other side and throw it to the middle. They ran that play again today. That didn't work. Like, again, that's a once or twice a year play, and I feel like they run it every other week or weekly, if not. What we didn't see this week was Jaden Reed touch pass, which was hell yeah. Like, I'm very happy not to see that, because you just can't be running it all the time. It's not good offense. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, run it once or twice over the week, but it's not good offense to run it 6-7 times a game like that against the Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't good. Your boy, though, Anders Carlson, he did well today.
We might be talking Jesus.
Might be talking Jesus. Gotta get him somebody, right?
Gotta get. Well, yeah. I mean, there's some cheese. I'm looking at a few people.
Yeah, you're tasting.
Looking.
All right, Jordan. Anything else you should talk about?
Actually, let's do. So, we might as well. We gotta look ahead.
All right. Panthers, Vikings, Bears.
Do the Packers make the playoffs?
No. I don't think they do. I think they need a lot of help, and that they needed to win these. They needed to win against the Giants, which is an easy game, and the Buccaneers was definitely a game they should have won. And I just don't think there's, frankly, a reality where they win, because they play in Minnesota, which is a horrible place the Packers have to play
On New Year's Eve.
on New Year's Eve. Like,
It is currently the Sunday night football game.
I'm sure it'll be fine, but
Just saying.
it'll probably get flexed out, frankly.
I don't know.
I think the Packers would have to have a more realistic playoff chance for it to not to get flexed out.
Yeah.
I think if they both lose next week, or if the Vikings lose next week, they probably gets flexed out. But either way, no, I just don't think they could win their last 3 games and get in. But I'm not optimistic that they can beat the Vikings, even with Nick Mullins or Josh Dobbs, or whoever throwing the football.
I was gonna say, do you know who might be the most stable team that they face left?
It's the Bears.
It's the Bears.
Yeah, the Bears are already thinking about the Packers, so I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, they are. I have
Um,
fucking.
I guess
Sorry.
what do you think? Do you think that they're gonna make it?
No, I think they're toast.
Honestly,
They're.
go ahead.
I think they are more um, able to crack into the top 10 of the draft order than make the playoffs.
Yeah,
They're currently 11th.
I don't think they went out for sure.
No, yeah, that's what. Yeah, oh man, yeah,
Um, yes, I'm not saying that it's a preferred outcome because, like, obviously the preferred outcome was making the playoffs to get this team like some real winning experience as they continue to develop as a very young team. But getting Joe Barry up out of here, getting hopefully the rest of the defensive coaches up out of here, and then still landing like a top 10 pick. I'm not saying it's an ideal outcome for the season,
yeah,
but in a year where you're like you said, the first year of rebuild, it's 2008. Like Brock in the Discord keeps saying, I'm very, very thankful that of his what's the word comparison for that.
yeah,
Listen, people, I'm still on flu brain here. Give me a break. Um, that if next year's 2009 and they make a push towards the playoffs and barely miss it, or make the playoffs and do whatever, like I'm fine with that honestly, because I think this team has a lot of talent on offense, and Jordan Love continues to develop, and he's already passed all of his season marks for yards and touchdowns. Like Jordan Love has played a very good season.
yep,
You cannot deny that.
yep,
And I think what just needs to be figured out now from Jordan Love is the finer things, the footwork, the passing motion, like just get the hitches out of his throwing motion, and just figure out defense. Because if they can figure out defense, I think this that goes a lot further this season than if they would make the playoffs. Like I think they make the playoffs. It's Joe Barry keeps his job, which isn't an ideal situation, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's a lesser of two evils kind of thing. Even though that's
yes,
not the total scenario, like make the playoffs, not make the playoffs kind of thing. But if there's John said in the Discord, it's promising. It's
yeah.
promising. It's not great because you won't make the playoffs, but it's promising. You still have to find the D coordinator that will do a good job. You still have to hopefully not have a too long of a lead time of that coordinator actually be able to implement changes, but it's a promising outlook to have a top 10 pick and a new D coordinator and system going into next year with this offense.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Whether we see these changes happen, well, we'll have multiple reaction pods or off-season pods to actually dive into that. But yeah,
Yep. All right, folks. That does it for us. Thank you all for listening once again. A couple of promos we got out of the way. Um, Go check out the Bucs feed to hear Jordan and Adam's 400th episode of Win in Six. Little claps. Congratulations, congratulations. Um, they talked about a Ring of Honor or a Wall of Fame. What was the term that you guys had used for that?
we settled with Ring of Honor. We
Right.
can always workshop that too.
For the Milwaukee Bucks. And I guess did you guys say an inspiration for that or no?
It was the inspired by the Bulls, who are introducing a Ring of Honor, I believe, next month. And we were like, hey, might as well do this with the Bucks because they're not going to actually do it. But
Nope, they're not.
let's do it.
So, so yeah, go check out that. Go check out Tiny Rohan on Eurostep to go see their game reviews and everything else. Bucks, I think, did end up winning.
They
Yes,
just
they
beat the
did.
Rockets.
Just beat the Rockets 120, 119. So they'll probably have a preview pod or a post game pod for you earlier this week, possibly tomorrow or today. You're listening to this on Monday. So yeah, go check out the Bucks feed for all things Bucks, Giannis, Dame, Chris, Brooke, all the guys and things like that. Check out Adam and Andrew on Cruising for a Bruising as they go through the Brewers offseason, any sort of moves they make, including Jackson Chourio and Wade Miley. Also, check out Adam and Andrew on Make Time for This as they talk all things movies, pop culture, and things like that. I'm trying to think of what their last episode was. Still the comedic genius of Albert Brooks. So go check that out. Thank you all for listening, and we'll be back in your feed sometime this week for the preview of the Panthers game before Christmas. And that'll be that. So, all right, folks, thanks again. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.